Hello, everyone. You're welcome once again to another interesting, engaging, and very informative series on the Amogate Radio Communications Program. I remain your host, Adikpeju Jayopa. It's such a delight and such a joy to have you here today. Thank you so much for joining in. Thank you so much for always listening. Thank you so much for always connecting with us. Together, we've been looking at the topic performance management and organizational productivity. And I hope that on this series you have learned something very new and something very instrumental to the success of your organization. Together, we have seen that performance management is the systematic process for improving organizational performance by developing the performance of individuals in that organization and teams. And so, performance management is that ongoing, continuous process that involves teaching, coaching, mentoring, continuous feedback, developing training of employees to the end that organizational vision, goals, and objectives are achieved. Let's not forget that performance management includes two major parts: the improvement of employee performance and the achievement of organizational goals. That is very important. And then together we've also considered the stages or the cycle of performance management. And we said performance management starts with performance planning. You plan and then you move to monitoring, watching, and taking stock of the performance levels of the employees in your organization. Then you develop. This is where you train. This is where, because at the level of monitoring, you identify areas of needs and improvement, and then you can touch on those areas at performance developing. And then after you've developed, we have performance rating and rewarding. After training, empowering, giving feedback, and going through that continuous cycle or that continuous process throughout the year, then you want to rate and reward during the performance appraisal. And that brought us to the different methods of performance appraisal. And we looked at that last week. We have the free essay method, we have the management by objectives method, we have the graphic rating skills method, we have the behavioral anchored rating skills method, and one of my most favorite method is the 360-degree feedback method. And there are different methods of performance appraisal that managers can use to rate and also reward the performance of employees in the organization. In today's episode, we will be looking at the performance management system. Performance management system. So when I'm talking about performance management system, what exactly am I referring to? The performance management system is the process and methodology followed for conducting the employee performance evaluation or appraisal. So it is that systematic approach to aligning the goals of the organization with its employees individually. So basically, what I'm talking about, the performance management system, or the PMS in short, is a system that tracks the performance of the employees in your organization in a manner that is fair, consistent, and measurable. And one of the good things about this system is that it relies on a combination of technologies and methodologies. Remember, we looked at different methods of performance evaluation or appraisal in our previous episode. So the PMS, or the performance management system, relies on a combination of methods, approaches, and technologies to ensure that the people in the organization are aligned with and are contributing to the strategic objectives of the business. And this tells me that this system is collaborative in nature. And the reason why it is collaborative in nature is because managers and employees work together to set expectations, to identify employee goals, to define performance measurement, to define performance needs, to share performance reviews and appraisals, and provide feedback, all to the end that employees improve at their job, improve at their performance, to the end, or to achieve the end result, which is the organizational goals and objectives. So having an effective performance management system makes so much difference in an organization. Remember that we have established that performance management is a very vital tool and key in any organization, particularly for organizational productivity. And one of the things we've established is that every business enterprise, or almost every business enterprise or multinational or company, wants to be successful. They want to be productive. And so if your organization is aiming for such goal, performance management is a must. So having an effective performance management system helps the organization to achieve its objectives and also retain its employees. A research showed that 69% of employees believe they will work harder if their efforts were recognized. And one of the beautiful ways, or one of the systems you can put in place to ensure that the efforts of your employees are being recognized, is through an effective performance management system. So what are the steps to successfully implementing an effective performance management system in your organization? The first step is plan. Plan. I'm sure some people are like, oh, we're starting with planning again. Yes. Like the popular, adage or proverb, anyone who fails to plan is planning to fail. Because planning involves all your strategic steps, thoughts, processes. How do you want to get this job done? Planning is very essential. Planning covers every aspect, covers every process of your system or structure, depending on what you're planning for. In this context, your performance management system. So it is very important to plan. So the first stage to implementing an effective project performance management system in your organization is to strategically plan with a clear idea of what you expect from this system. So you must keep in mind, as you plan, the objectives of the organization, then the objectives of the performance reviews, and decide the way to proceed. So it's not enough to just say, oh, we're going to evaluate our employees. What exactly are you checking for? What exactly are you measuring? You must measure against the organizational goals or standards or objectives or vision, because that is what the employees are working towards. So that must be in mind when you're planning to implement your performance management system. The next step is to communicate. So communicating about the changes in performance evaluation with the employees is necessary, particularly if you're introducing a new methodology or a new technology. You must communicate with your employees. It is good that they familiarize themselves with this new system and ensure that you get the acceptance of your employees, ensure that they are on board, ensure that they are aware of what is expected of them. Ensure that your employees are aware of the metrics that is being used for the appraisal. Your employees don't want to, one of the things we started with, or one of the things I said about an effective performance management system, is that it is fair. And so you want to ensure that you communicate your performance management system to your employees so that it is clear and it is fair to them. The next step in implementing an effective performance management system is train. So managers may need, to be trained with the new performance management system, because in most organizations, the managers, whether the line managers, operational managers, human resource managers, or direct supervisors, always act as the evaluators or the raters or the appraisers. So it is necessary and important that managers are conversant, or they're familiarized with the new or the existing PMS in your organization. It is a necessary step in implementing an effective performance management system in your organization, because it will fill the existing gaps and provide the required knowledge and skills that will make implementation easy. That is very important. You don't want the appraisers to be struggling with the method or the system or technology they are trying to use to evaluate employees in the organization. So ensure that you train your managers. The next step in this cycle is implement. Implement. One of the things I want to say is that before you implement the full, performance management system, always implement a pilot version, as it will help to identify the changes required to keep the performance aligned with the organizational goals. So you want to have a test run. You want to see how effective that system is to your organization, or if you want to adjust, if you want to introduce changes, all to the end that the employee performance is aligned with the organizational goal. After implement, the next stage is monitor. So after the implementation stage, you monitor how the analysis is going. You monitor the number of employees that are to be evaluated. Is it the entire employees in the organization? Are you doing it based on teams or based on departments? You want to analyze the number of employees that are evaluated, and then you want to get quality information that has been gathered by the system. So you monitor all the points that are essential to the performance evaluation that is going on in your organization. The next step after monitor is review. So at this stage, reevaluate the capabilities of the performance management system and see whether they are utilized in the right way. So for example, if you're using the 360-degree feedback system, you want to make sure that was it really a 360-degree feedback? Were all the parties contacted, or did we have just 2 parties give their feedback out of 4 parties? You want to ensure that the methods or the system technology being used in this PMS is utilized in the right way. You also want to review whether the objectives and goals of implementing the performance management system is being fulfilled or not. And then you want to make changes if required based on your review and probably feedback from managers and employees. And then the last step in this cycle is repeat. You repeat the process again. You repeat starting from planning again. So after implementing your performance management system and ensuring that all the steps are followed and actions are taken for the betterment of achieving organizational goals, you repeat the cycle. You start again from planning, and then you go to communicating, and then you go to training, you go to implementing, you go to monitoring, you go to reviewing, and you repeat the cycle. That is how to implement an effective performance management system. So somebody might be asking, why do we need a performance management system in our organization? Why can't we just evaluate or rate our employees the way we want to? I can just call anybody and just tell them, you were good this year, that's your evaluation, or you were bad this year. Why do you need an effective performance management system in your organization? One of the main purposes of the performance management system is to develop a systematic feedback mechanism. So a PMS or an effective PMS creates a formal channel through which the employees become aware of their contribution to the organization in terms of their performance. It communicates to the employee the improvements required in their performance to meet the role, and it also provides praise, encouragement for effort, and recognition for good performance. So having an effective PMS recognizes the performance of employees. Remember the statistics we gave that 69% of employees said that they would work better or work harder at their job if their efforts were being recognized. So having an effective performance management system in your organization helps to address that. Another purpose for having an effective PMS in your organization is that it addresses the development issues in your organization and skill gaps in the organization. So it identifies the skills and knowledge development needed by the employees, and it helps to identify the appropriate learning and training solutions to meet those needs. Also, performance management system can help your organization to diagnose problems, particularly performance issues, and it gives you an idea about where work is going, what is going wrong, what is being done right, and what needs to be addressed. So it helps you as a business leader or as an executive to identify what adjustments are required to improve the performance status of your employees, which will in turn improve the performance status and productivity of your organization. Also, an effective performance management system can use the information and data gathered to plan training, development initiatives. It will inform hiring decisions, because once you've appraised, once you've evaluated employees over time, you know the kind of skills and competencies, abilities you are looking forward to in your employees. And so that can also help in hiring decisions. Your next recruitment process, you can say, oh, we're looking for an employee that has this, because from our performance evaluation, we have realized that to achieve these goals in our organization, we need employees that are skilled in this department. It can also help to devise recognition and reward strategies. We cannot overemphasize the importance of reward and recognition, particularly to your employees. It also helps with workforce planning, particularly with administrative processes such as promotions, succession planning, and organizational restructuring. So this data provides information about performance levels, skills, knowledge, and expertise that is required, that is currently running in the organization and that is required for the success of the organization. So very quickly, I want us to look at the characteristics of an effective performance management system. So what are the things to look out for, to say the performance management system in your organization is effective? And I'm talking about, like I said, performance management system talks about the different technologies or softwares or methods that you use to appraise, to rate, or to evaluate the employees in your organization. So how would you know that the system you have implemented in your organization is an effective one? Now, one of the things you must know is that there would always be constraints in using a performance management system. There would always be, both internal or external constraints, and different factors might impede or affect or impact your performance management system, and it might change the results that you're looking for. However, in an ideal system, when we talk about ideal, there's a difference between real and practical and ideal. In an ideal performance management system, these are the characteristics to look out for. The first one is that your performance management system must have a strategic congruence. Strategic congruence. The system must be congruent. When I mean congruent, I mean it must agree, it must align. Okay, you can say alignment. The system should be congruent with the unit and organization strategy. In other words, individual goals must be aligned with either the unit or department or organizational goals, meaning that your performance management system must factor in the organizational goals. Remember, we said that at the planning stage, you must not forget, why are we evaluating the employees? You can't just evaluate employees just because you want to talk about their dressing or how they speak. Yes, sometimes that isn't included as a behavioral competency in your evaluation. But more importantly, don't forget that there are two parts to performance management, which is first the improvement of your employees' performance, work performance or job performance, and the achievement or the achieving of organizational goals and objectives. Meaning that if employees are working and the organizational goals are not being achieved, there is a major problem. So you want to ensure that individual goals are being aligned to organizational goals, and your performance management system must be checking or monitoring or rating or measuring that. So I want to just quickly touch on, how do you align individual goals to organizational goals in your organization? You're like, okay, now I have employees. I've told them, this is what they need to do, but how do I align their own goals with the set organizational goals? First thing is, define your goals clearly. Make sure that they are aware. It's not vague, it's not unclear. We want to have 1,000 clients before the end of the second quarter of the year. Clear. We want to ensure that we attend to all customers, within 3 to 5 working days without delay. Clear. It has to be clear. Define your goals clearly. Then second, way to align individual goals with organizational goals is communicate your goals from top down. Communicate and reiterate your goals consistently so that everyone in your organization is aware of the goals. They are constantly reminded of the goals. They remain focused on the goals and they know what they are working towards. So you must continually communicate with your employees. Then the third step is break down your goals into actionable steps. We want to ensure that we have 1,000 new clients before the end of the second quarter or before the end of the year. What are the strategic steps that will be needed to achieving that? You can break them down into team goals and then break them down into individual goals, actionable steps that your employees can take. And the next step is execute your plan. Put it into work. You don't just leave it on paper. Put it into work and make sure you keep a close eye on, work progress at this phase. Monitor the goals and tasks regularly and provide feedback so that everyone stays engaged. Then you track the progress as your employees work, as they, engage their responsibilities towards achieving organizational goals. Make sure you track progress, because without proper tracking techniques, you have no way of knowing what's working or what's not working. You have no way of knowing whether your employees are on the right road or not. I remember seeing a proverb somewhere, and it says that if you don't know where you're going to, every road will lead to a destination. Meaning that if you don't know your particular destination, you could take a bus going anywhere, heading anywhere. Okay, so it is important that you track the progress of your employees. That is very important. Now, the next characteristics of an effective performance management system is context congruence. Remember, said that congruent means, alignment or agreement or harmony. Okay, so now we're talking about context congruence. The first we looked at was strategic congruence. The performance management system in your organization should be congruent with the organization's culture, as well as the broader cultural context of the region where your organization is situated or the country. For example, an organization that has a culture in which communication is not fluid and hierarchies are rigid, and hierarchical status is really uptight, an upward feedback system in which individuals receive comments on their performance directly directly from their supervisors might be resisted and might likely not be effective. Okay, or if your organizational culture is one that is high on people orientation. We looked at this when we're considering organizational culture. I think that was last year. You can visit our show reel on Mixlr to listen to those episodes. If your organization is one that has a culture that is high on people orientation, you don't want to come and evaluate your employees based on innovation. That is against, or that does not align, or that does not agree with the culture in your organization. Also, regarding the culture context of a region or country, for example, in certain countries such as Japan, there's an emphasis on the measurement of both behaviors, that is how people do the work, and results, that's the outcome of people's work. Whereas in the United States, results are typically preferred over behaviors. So in the United States, you have more of, we're not necessarily bothered about how you do the work as long as we get the desired outcomes. So you see that the performance evaluation system or performance management system that will run in these two countries will be quite different. So running maybe a result only system in Japan is not likely to be effective. So there must be context congruence for you to say you have an effective performance management system in your organization. The third characteristics of an effective project performance management system is thoroughness. The system should be thorough regarding all dimensions, in this case 4 dimensions. First, all employees should be evaluated, including managers. No one must be exempted, else it ceases to be fair, and the moment it is not fair, it is no longer an effective performance management system. All employees should be evaluated. That is the first key. Second, all major job responsibilities should be evaluated. All major job responsibilities. The third is the evaluation should include performance spanning the entire review period, not just the few weeks or months before the review. So if performance appraisal is done at the end of the year, it should cover the work performance for the entire year, not just the previous month. Because in the previous month, anything could have happened. Someone who had been bad all whole year, now trying to be good just at the last moment, does that make them an excellent employee? Or somebody who has been good all through the year and probably just a month before the performance appraisal, they fell sick or something bad happened to them, and for that reason their performance had to drop. Maybe they had to take excuse again and again from work. Does that make them a bad employee? So you must ensure that your performance review covers or spans the entire review period. Then the fourth dimension that you want to consider in an effective performance management system is that feedback should be given on positive performance aspects as well as those that need improvement. All sides of performance review must be covered. You must not just focus on the positives and leave out areas of improvement. Remember, performance management is geared towards ensuring that employees improve in their work performance. The next characteristics we consider today is practicality. So you want to ensure that your performance management system is practical, which means it is easy to use, it is user friendly. Okay, very, very important. You also want to ensure that the benefits of using that system it does not is not underwhelmed by the cost. It must outweigh the cost, because there are some performance management systems, particularly technologies or softwares, that can be very expensive. So you want to ensure that it is worth the amount you're paying for, that, or what the cost, whether it is time, effort, or expense. You want to ensure that that is put in place. The next characteristics of an effective performance management system is specificity. So a good system must be specific. It should provide detailed and concise, concrete guidance to employees about what is expected of them and how they can meet these expectations. It must be clear to your employees, specific. If you're in this department, you're expected to do this, probably in 3 steps. My colleague Tolo Modara will always say, if you have a strategic plan and you're having so many items on your strategic plan, she will say it's not strategic enough. It must be concise. Your employees must know what is expected of them and how they can meet up. You don't want employees coming to appraiser and they're being asked questions, or being reviewed on things they didn't even know they were expected to do. That would be very unfair to them. It's like saying, was I supposed to do this? Should I have added this to my job roles? I did not know. And then, they feel like I'm being judged for a sin I didn't even know I committed. So it must be specific. Let the goals be spelled out clearly. Then the next characteristics we'll be considering today is that reliability. A good performance or effective performance management system should include measures of performance that are consistent and free of error. It must be reliable, or maybe in other words, dependable, meaning that, for example, if 2 supervisors were providing ratings of the same employee and performance dimensions using your system, their ratings should be similar. That is how reliable your performance management system must be. The next characteristics I'll be considering today is inclusiveness. Good performance management systems include input from multiple sources on an ongoing basis. So you want to ensure that everyone who is involved in probably the work process of the employee, give their feedback. So first, your evaluation process must represent the concerns of all the people who will be affected by the outcome. Then the employees must also participate in the process of creating the system. That is very, very important. Okay, another thing you also want to include is individual views and perspectives, particularly in today's very diverse and global space where you have individuals from different cultural backgrounds. You want to ensure that their views and perspectives are also included or reflected in your performance management system. The next characteristics I'll be considering today is standardization. Ensure, for you to say you have a good or an effective performance management system, it must be standardized. This means that performance is evaluated consistently across people and across time. It's the same. It's not like, we use a kind of performance management system for those in the finance department, but we use a different kind for those in the HR department, and we use it. No, it must be standardized. The same across board, the same metrics, the same rating skills, if you're using a rating skills, or the same competencies, the same goals, organizational goals, it must be standardized across board. Okay, and then the next characteristic I'll be looking at is ethicality. Ethicality. A good performance management system must comply with ethical standards. This means that the supervisor or the evaluator must suppress his or her personal interest in providing evaluations. It is very, very important. The supervisor or the manager must suppress their biases. Biases will show up. That's what makes us human. We have different opinions, different perspectives, different beliefs about different things. That makes us human. However, if you want your performance appraisal to be fair and to be credible across board, then personal opinions or self-interest must be suppressed while giving evaluations. In addition, the supervisor must evaluate only performance dimensions to which they have sufficient information, ensuring that the privacy of the employee is respected. So the supervisor must ensure that they're evaluating based on the performance dimensions, which is usually in tandem with the set organizational goals. Wow, that is all I'll be taking on today's episode. I hope you learned something new. I hope you're looking forward to, reviewing the performance management system in your organization and ensuring that it is top notch and effective. Thank you so much for joining me today. Thank you so much for listening in. You can, for your questions, your feedbacks and comments, you can contact us at contact@theamogate.org. Contact@theamogate.org. You can also connect with us on, our social media handles on LinkedIn, Instagram, and Facebook. We'd love to connect with you. We'd love to talk with you. We'd love to walk with you. That is why we are here. You can also listen to previous episodes on any of our series on our show reel on MixLR. Until I come your way same time next week, keep being amazing and keep reaching for the stars. Bye for now.